conduct interviews with a number of directors for my project, like to gather enough data.
Yeah.
And I'm already done with my chapter 1 to 3. So what's left is chapter 4 and 5.
Okay.
So yeah, thank you so much. And I read your letter. It's really, really helped me.
You're welcome.
And I was a bit skeptical about picking this topic because all my lecturers basically in school, they are men. So, and most of them, they don't really understand. They don't really understand, or they would just, I don't know, they're always so skeptical about like anything, or women, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, what are you trying to say, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I was scared at first, but I was like, I'm interested in this, so I just decided to pick the topic and everything,
Yeah.
and it got approved.
I'm so glad that you did because, like you said, this is not a topic that a lot of people are comfortable with. And it's not like it's
Yeah,
something that we women project because we're trying to be negative or anything. But the truth is, regardless of how society frames it, there's a huge discrepancy between how men are treated and how females are treated, especially in like the workplace. So I'm really grateful for people like you that really want to hear our stories and ask us to really express how we feel in our own voices. It's a big help to know that there are people out there, especially women, that really do care about it.
yeah, because I had seen like topics that were similar, but
Mm,
people mostly like they analyzed the films. They didn't really get the opinions of the people that directed the film and
yeah,
everything. They just like analyzed it based on what they saw, what they heard, and everything. So I decided to take like a different route so I
yeah.
can get to know what these women actually think when they're directing or producing these movies, to get their opinions, because I feel like it's just as important as analyzing the film itself in your
Of
own.
course. Because the truth is, although art is very subjective, but it's transparent in a way that if you, okay, let's just even use fashion. For instance, if you were to buy a piece of female clothing, you can tell if the designer is a male or female, or if it's a male that appreciates women, because there's just always going to be that
Yeah,
effect. There's always something extra that they try to add to it, something to provide maybe more
yeah,
comfort, more flexibility. So you can really tell what the mindset behind the artist or the creative that puts that forward. So like you said, even in films, it's very it's obvious. Like in my letter, I stated that these days, especially for me, or let me just speak on a personal level, there are a lot of movies that I really can't watch anymore. And I think that's the reason why I kind of went through or now I'm more involved in the K-drama in the K-drama world because
yeah,
for regular movies, the way women are portrayed sometimes is very heartbreaking, it's
yeah,
very disappointing. Because just as I said in the letter, everybody has tendency to do good and evil, but it's very important, especially as a storyteller, to explain to the viewer how this person got to this stage because that's the whole purpose of storytelling. There's a lot of flexibility in it, and you as the creative, it's your duty to explain all of that so that it's easier for the consumer to just watch and understand. There's a backstory to everything. But I think these days in filmmaking, that has become a little bit lost on some directors or some producers or even script writers because they are just in a hurry to tell the story. But then they leave out the background of how this character got to be, how this character came to be. Because this person, or even if it's not a fiction, this is something that is in your head. This is your vision. So it's your duty to take your time to explain or at least narrate the story the way you want it to be perceived. There are a lot of directors out there that say, oh, you know what, I want to do a lot of suspense movies. So let the viewer be the one to deduct whatever it is that they want from this story. But that really kind of defeats the purpose because if you are telling a story, then what's the point of the viewer being the one to come to conclusions? Yes, there are movies that have those cliffhangers where you are like, okay, as the viewer, you are trying to think, okay, is this the direction the director wanted? Is this? It's like I understand the after effect of it, but at the same time, I just see it as lazy storytelling because they don't want to put in the effort to say, okay, this is how this character came to be, and this is why this character is the way that it is. I don't know if you understand my drift.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's very true. Because recently, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm listening to you.
Okay, okay. Yeah, last year I did my internship at a studio in Lagos. So I
Mm-hmm.
was hired to write a script. They wanted like they just wanted something that would be able to promote the studio. So
Yeah.
and I love writing normally. So
Oh, that's
okay,
good.
they're like, okay, I should write a script for them. And I did write the script. It was a series, but like they're yet to produce it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So but then they kept like calling me back to like edit some parts and mostly the female characters parts. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt a bit offended because it has story. It's not like because they left most of the male characters parts. Like they were like, okay, just leave this one here, but we don't need this ones. And I'm like, that's the point of the movie of the like script I wrote. We
Yeah.
need to know her backstory. Yeah, the guys on his I mean, his story wasn't like I didn't really give an in-depth explanation on what his backstory was, but I really wanted the viewers to know, okay, this is where this girl is coming from, and
Mm.
this is how she's going to like get through all her challenges and everything. But they just kept telling me, okay, I should be edit the script ready. So the whole experience was just, I was just so upset. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I managed to like do it, and their attitude changed when they saw me like in person because they did not know if I was a girl or a guy. Yeah,
Oh.
when like they first
Oh.
approached me. So when they saw me and they were like, "Oh, you're young," and everything,
And
then
you're
they were
female.
just like kissing my head to me when I was finally on set. They're like, "Oh, don't do this, do this, do this," and I was just like, it was very annoying,
Yeah.
but I knew what I had to do. So I just did it and then I just let it go. Oh, yeah.
And that kind of takes away most of the creativity because, like you said, the character was the main lead, and the story is basically centered around
Yeah,
this character. But you now beating down most of the character traits, maybe the parts that make the female lead seem a little bit too strong or too smart or whatever it is that could potentially offend men's egos, has just basically killed the
yeah,
entire story because now although you wrote the words, but that would not be something that you would be proud of, or something that in 10 years
yeah,
from now you can boldly say, this is my work, this is what I wrote, I was the one that wrote this script. Because there would always be that little guilt where you feel like, okay, you betrayed, as an artist you betrayed the character, and as a woman you betrayed your fellow female, even if it's just fiction. So I totally understand where you're coming from. And just to expatiate on my letter, I think I mentioned it a bit. I said when I write my scripts, if it's books, films, whatever it is that I am doing creatively, I always try to make sure that I'm looking at it from the perspective of a consumer, and the consumer being myself. Because it's, I think for most artists or filmmakers, or especially for those of us that also write the scripts, because there are some people that just direct and produce, but they don't write the script. So I try to be very intentional from writing up until shooting, till editing, making sure that all the characters are portrayed as they need to be. There is a lot of equality in my films. If you've had the chance to go through my YouTube channel, you see that I have an animation titled Skin to Soul. In that short film, I try to portray sexual abuse in young boys, because I think that's another topic that people shy away from, especially in Nigeria, because a lot of men don't want to accept that they've been abused at some point, or maybe they just don't recognize it. So that was really the whole purpose of that film. And it didn't get as widely accepted as the films that had a little bit of more sexual content, or where the female lead is a little bit is subdued, because people just don't want, I think uncomfortable conversations like that kind of make people shy away from it, and they just don't generally want to accept it, because it's something that a lot of people are still like struggling with to even recognize that it's happening. And it's the same thing with a female with equality, because like I said, I work full time as a property manager, and I am in a position of leadership, so I have a lot of men that work with me and in lesser positions. And I've had a lot of cases where I've gone into serious meetings now, all prepared, I look the parts, I'm ready to deliver what it is that I'm there to do. but they just tell me to excuse them. They ask me to step out, or they ask me if there's a male representative that could probably handle the meeting better than I could. And it's sad because regardless of how much progress there has been in every profession for females, there's still a lot to do. And I think most especially in the creative aspect, in the creative industry, because most of what we've known were men led. A lot of men were the ones that started this filmmaking thing, and we appreciate their effort for it. We do not try to belittle it, but all we are asking is give us room to do what we need to do. At least give us a little space to shine. There are only like a handful of female producers or directors in Nigeria that are notably doing well, that you can like pinpoint and say, oh, this lady is doing this, this lady. But sometimes even some of them, they fall into the trap of, okay, I want this to sell, and if the studios or the film company or whatever sponsorship that they have is not comfortable with the script, they have to now readjust it, just as you did, just to please them, because it's very hard to get funding, especially for creative work, because it's still something that people are starting to take more seriously now. Although we've always watched films, we've always had books, but a lot of growing up, especially for me, we didn't, our parents didn't see it as like an actual profession. They would always try to encourage you to be a doctor, be a nurse, be a lawyer, and all those more professions that they feel like were more serious. But now, in recent times, as the creative industry and entertainment industry is booming, people are now becoming more accepting of it. And it's now that we need to really put up the fight so that we can seal our spaces and write our names in history, especially as female movie makers or female directors, because it's very easy to get left out or get left behind. A lot of history that we know today is not the actual history, it's just what has been written to us by men that have translated it to be so. So that's the reason why we have to be very adamant, and I'm very stubborn about it. I'm a very headstrong person. And I think maybe that's the reason why I've been able to keep going so far. And like I said in the letter, even doors that are closed to me, I always make sure that I open windows. And that's the whole reason why I bettered my foundation, Omosede Humanitarian Foundation. I have a lot of female workers, a lot of women that work with me. I try to do my best to empower them, to inspire them, and also to bring out the creativity in them. Because what I'm trying to build in the long run is a community of strong individuals, be it male or female, but there will be equality in every role that they have to play. Nobody needs to feel, or nobody should feel lesser than the other person just because they have different physical traits. So that for me is really the goal, and I try to make sure that that's translated in every type of creativity that I, or any type of product that I put out there, from my films to my books, even my consultations, and even my day-to-day work that I do right now as a property manager. I think that's one thing that I'm very proud of, is that I really stuck to my guts and I allow my femininity shine. But at the same time, I don't allow anybody to belittle me or bring me down. My camera crew, most of them are men, because those are the people that really took the time to study that type of profession or the skill. But regardless, everybody understands their job descriptions, and everybody understands that this is who I'm working with or I'm working for. And we try to create a space where there's respect, there's genuine respect, and we try to treat each other with kindness. And I think that's one thing that I would like to encourage other female directors or filmmakers out there to do. I think just because you are trying to fit into a space doesn't mean that you should lose yourself or lose any of your words, because like you said, they asked you to revise the script once, and then over and over again you kept revising and revising, and at the end of the day the art got lost in translation. So that's one thing. I think the most important thing for us as creatives or filmmakers is to make sure that the story that we are trying to portray, or the narrative that we're trying to put out there, is, it doesn't need to be changed. So if there are compromises that needs to be made, then it should be made within the individuals and not affecting the actual script or the actual art that has been produced. Because at the end of the day, those are the stories that need to be told. The young girls coming up in the next generation, they need to see stories like that to know that, okay, we are valued. Our problems or our successes are valued in society. But if everybody keeps hushing and we keep quieting down those, or removing those stories, then those stories will never be told. And then just as we say now that our leaders failed us or our past heroes failed us, it's the same way they too they will say, and this is our time now to make a change. Like I said, it is our time to make sure that our names are not written out of history and our art is portrayed just as it has been envisioned to be released.
Yeah, yeah, thank you so much. So like, do you think like your background growing up influenced the way you represent or you present women in your movies or in your films? Do you think like it influenced any factor or any way you represent the movies? Sorry, the women in your movies.
Yes, for sure. For sure. My background definitely influenced how I portray women and how I am too, because I was raised by a single mom and my mother worked so hard, but yet she's somebody that just kept on chasing her dreams and she found a way to live as happily as she could. So I think seeing that kind of encouraged me to do the same, to remain true to who I am. And also when I'm creating, even in the books or in the films, I always make sure that the characters are portrayed, especially the female characters, are portrayed to be strong. And even if, for instance, the plot deems it that the female character is weak, there will always be a backstory. Because, like I said, people are not just people. We have stories that have made us who we have come to be at the present. So I always try to drop a little bit of a hint of their past so that you understand that, okay, this person or this character didn't just come to be. There's a reason why this person is the way he or she is. So yeah, to answer your question,
Mm,
yes, my background definitely did influence who I am now as a filmmaker.
Thank you. So, how do you balance your like the character development of your female characters while like avoiding the normal stereotypes that oh she gets saved at the end or something like how do you balance that? Because it can be hard sometimes when
Yeah.
directing or producing a movie.
Okay. For that, what I would say is during the pre-production stage, even before I start writing a script, I try to go over it in my head several times to see how, like that's what I said about as a creative. I know it's hard sometimes to like take yourself out of the equation and just like focus on creating, but I like to still see it from the consumer's perspective. So, and now who are my consumers? Both male, female, children, whoever it is that is willing to watch. So I prepare the carcass, or rather, I prepare what I want the characters to be all about. I arrange the plot. And then before I start writing is when I now try to make little adjustments here and there. But like I said, telling a backstory is very important for character building. Because if I'm going to portray, let's say, for instance, a female that is maybe rude or arrogant or whatever, she's like the main lead character, there has to be some sort of backstory to how she got to be. Because at the end of the day, you want people to feel things when they watch your movies or your films. But at the same time, you don't want them to hate the characters. You want them to be able to understand the characters. And that's the flexibility, that's where the flexibility of storytelling and script writing comes in. Is that I can show you a scene where the character is being all annoying and just arrogant. But at the same time, once I'm able to show you a little bit of backstory, okay, this is what happened to her to get her to this point, then it's easier for you to digest and it's easier for you to understand, like, oh, okay, I get why this person is the way the person is. So I think the most important thing is the mental preparation and also trying to understand the script from every perspective as much as you can. Try to understand it from the perspective of the director, try to understand it from the perspective of the producer, and also from the writer and the consumer. So it's all about perspective for me. I try to I really do take my time before I put anything out. As of now, I have 7 short films. There was one of my short films is called Drenched. It's mainly about the female lead. It's about a young female doing well, seemingly on the outside, but she's struggling with like mental illness and all of that. So what I did with that short film, because a lot of people didn't understand it until they went back and watched and like, oh, okay. So I had to add a little bit of like her thoughts. I didn't do a backstory, but I tried to show a bit of her thoughts so that at least they know at every point, like, okay, this is what she's thinking and this is why she's reacting this way. So, like I said, it's very important that in storytelling, you try to be as careful as you can and try to like assess it from this from all angles before actually putting anything out. You on your own as the creative or as the writer, you can take your time to revise the script as many times as need be before presenting it to anybody else, so that at the time that you are presenting it to the big studio houses or whoever is interested in giving you sponsorship, you yourself, you are comfortable with it, you are happy with the script that you are presenting. So if they even ask for a revision, you can confidently say, no, you know what, I have looked at every angle and I think this is how this film needs to be portrayed. I think more women just need to be more confident in themselves and in the arts that they are producing, so that way you are not easily
Mm,
swayed by any and everybody. Because if they were to call all the executives in the studio house, every one of them would have different opinions. So are you going to keep revising your script every time that somebody has an issue with it? I don't know if you catch my drift, if you
yeah,
understand what I mean.
yeah, that's I understand. So, among all the films that you've made, the short films and everything,
Mm.
like among all of them, is there anyone where you specifically like avoided giving your female character like the normal stereotypical kind of attitude or storyline where okay, this is how she is, or let's say she's a sex symbol or something like you just deliberately avoided giving them that kind of character. Is there any of your film where you did that?
Yes, actually, I think, but that was my very first film, just because my very first. But since then, I didn't betray myself that much anymore, because the short film was about a couple, a struggling couple that were going through marital issues. And I think when I wrote the scripts, I had stronger words that I wanted the female to use, because obviously she's in a marriage that is not working out, and those type of situations get pretty intense. But at the same time, I was worried about how people would receive it and accept it. And we are in Nigeria. So despite how much progress has been made, to see a woman going off on her husband is still not generally accepted. So I had to revise the script and give her less harsh words to communicate. So I think that was the only film that I did that. But every other film has been I've been very true to who I am in every other film, for the female leads most especially, because I make sure that I take my time with the female leads to give them as much transparency and as much genuinity as I possibly can. So I would say, in a way, there's a little bit of me in every film or book that I've written, especially when it comes to the female characters, because I wouldn't want to portray a character that I don't even think that I could be in real life. Yeah.
So, was there any specific social issue that you witnessed that made you say, "Oh, okay, after we want that like shooting films, I want to make female characters that are accurate rather than what people would think they are, like something you just witness and you're like, okay, that's it. I'm actually going into this industry and I'm going to portray female characters as like the accurate women that they are, not what people think they are."
I would say, for me, like I said, actually, what really pushed me into portraying my female characters as I think they should be is my personal life. Because every day is very tough, especially in the industry that I work in, because I work in the hospitality industry where you have customers that come in and they meet you in the office. They are coming to you now as the manager. But for some reason, just because they see that you are female, they either want to try to belittle you or try to get sexual favors from you. So it's my everyday life that kind of like pushed me into making sure that at least the fiction, the fictional life that I was creating would not be suffering the same
Yeah.
thing that I'm suffering every other day. Yes, and I think in my second short film, Abiku, Everybody knows the story of Abiku, and Wole Soyinka has a poem about it. But he had written it from the perspective of the parent. And I remember when I wanted to make my own film and when I wrote my own script, I decided to write it from the perspective of the child because I always try to find unique angles to storytelling. So even if it's a tale that has been told over and over again, I would find that angle that has not yet been assessed, and that is what I would run with. And then when it came to time to choose the child, I intentionally went for a female child because I know that unfortunately in Nigeria, male children are still much more accepted than female children. Everybody just assumed that, especially back in those days, the male child was what was really wanted. But I intentionally went for a female child because I wanted to change that narrative. I wanted the mother to have a bit more power, despite she had been losing her child over and over again, and her husband wasn't happy with her. But at the same time, I made sure to leave the script as intentional as I could possibly do, which is to make sure that despite the troubles that they were experiencing with childbirth, the husband was never disrespectful to her. He was never physically abusive to her. She was still a strong woman. And in the film, it's portrayed that it's the mother that actually did her best to keep that child alive. So yeah, I think little things like that, little additions like that to the films or whatever it is that I'm putting out, whatever product is what really makes the difference. And for me, when I go back and watch it, I'm very proud. I'm very proud that I put it out there in the most honest and most transparent way possible that I could possibly do. So it makes me very happy that I've not betrayed myself or any of the women in my life through my creative products so far.
It's like, this industry is dominated by men
Yeah.
normally. And have there been any time where you felt so like overwhelmed that okay, you should you keep doing this because of like everything you're experiencing and with all how the men like treat you? Have there been times where you said maybe I should stop doing this, maybe this is not for me, or I should just leave it to the men or something like that?
Yes, every day actually. Every day I feel the need to just quit, run, and just basically face whatever it is that I can handle. Because I've had cases where we are on set, actors that are being paid by me would not listen. Like I would tell them, this is my creative vision, this is what I want. And they're like, no, why as a man will I kneel for a lady? Why will I like those little unnecessary conversations? And I've even had like a little bit of back and forth with some of the crew members that are just like, you know what, you're not going to like boss me around and stuff like that, which doesn't even, which shouldn't be, because if we are going to go by hierarchy, you should at least listen to the director. But unfortunately, sometimes things
Yeah.
like this would happen, especially when you are working with men that are probably older or more experienced. Like they would want to. I remember when I newly started making films, I didn't know much about directing and all of that. But I was very fortunate to have teamed up with somebody that respected me as a female and as a film producer. And instead of trying to take over the directing description from me, he actually coached me through it. So I was I think for that, I've been very lucky to have met him much earlier on. Because prior to him, I had tried to work with some other directors, I say male directors, male camera crew people, but it just didn't work out because there would always be like a difference in creative vision and also just men that just didn't want to listen. So I think that's the reason why I said it's very important to look before you leap. You have to make sure that you have the right crew and the right set of people around you that would always encourage you and push you to do better. And if there's any shortcoming on your end, instead of mocking you about it, there are people that are willing to teach you and also learn from you because everybody has something to give. So I think that's one of the things that keeps me going. And also, like I said, it's very important for me to be able to tell stories from a unique perspective because nobody else is doing it. I've always said my brand is like a self-reflecting mirror where we are trying to show whoever needs it that this is how it is. Like there's a lot of transparency, but at the same time, we are trying to inspire and empower people, most especially women, to like come out and tell their own stories or just simply be who they truly are. And I think that is very much needed. I feel like if I were to give up now, a lot of people that could have eventually gained something from me would not be able to. And I don't think that's something that I could really live with. So that's one of the driving forces for me because we need more female voices. That's just the truth. There's a reason why Chimamanda is as glorified as she is because she didn't just stop at being a writer, but she actually continues to speak on feminism and being a feminist. But I think initially when she started it, I was just a teenager then. Even I too didn't understand it too. Because when growing up, you are conditioned, your mind is conditioned in a way to be like to accept things just the way it is. And I remember when she started talking about this whole being a feminist thing, even I was like, what's this one saying? Like, is she not married? Does she not have kids? So why is she like, but until I actually took the time to like research what being a feminist is and listen to her messages. And nobody, I don't think, if even if after 50 years, even when she has left this earth and transcended to a different space, people will still remember that she was really like the corner, like she pushed this so far. And in a way, her voice has given the rest of us voices. As I mentioned in my letter, Kemi Adetiba, the producer of King of Boys, she actually really did encourage me. I was just in university, then I think 100 level, 200 level, when that movie came out. My friends and I just went for a regular evening cinema outing. And when I saw the movie, I was like, oh wow, this is so nice. Then when I saw her name, I was like, a female. You mean that this is a movie made by a female producer? It was really amazing to see. So we need more female heroes like that, especially in the filmmaking industry that really do stick to what they believe in. And even if you don't know them from their films, you can tell their personality that this is somebody that values and respects women genuinely. It's very important.
Mhm. Yeah, so how do you think that the Nigerian film industry can like support more female filmmakers and directors, like make them empowered and everything, like just make them know that okay, this is a safe space. It's okay to join the industry and everything. Like how do you think the Nigerian film industry can do that?
Yes, I think for now, actually, I would be honest and say I'm very proud of the direction that Nigeria is going. um just last 2 months ago when I established my foundation, my creative foundation, that was when I got to know of like several grants, and a lot of them were like female led, female empowerment. So I think in a way the culture is shifting and people are actually becoming more accepting of female filmmakers, and it's definitely a lot more different from how it was when we newly started. It seems like, especially since last year, there's been a lot of progress in that aspect. Then another thing that I would say, I think we just need more visibility. I think people need to know that we actually do exist. Like there are over hundreds of female filmmakers that are just ready to come on the scene if they would just let them in. So it will be very much appreciated if like eventually or in the near future we start to have production houses and studios that are female owned and or female led, because I think that way it's just kind of reduce the gap a lot, because they are a lot more accepting, knowing that okay, I understand the struggle, I've been there. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my foundation. Like I'm trying to create a female led community so that we too can also accept other people. So it takes one from one, it's like a domino effect. One person takes care of the next person, like that. So I think really just creating that community is really the way forward, and just letting everybody know, or letting the females know especially, that there's acceptance here. You can be who you are as a creative and as a woman and not feel the need to like hide yourself or try to be perceived as a male, because I think that's where the issue comes in. We have females that are working in the filmmaking industry for sure, but most of them are trying to depict stories as males. And in every form of art, your personality needs to be able to shine through, because that's your unique factor. I cannot write from a male perspective because I am not a male. But I think unfortunately for the females,
Yeah.
we are burdened with that tax to say, oh, okay, this is a beautiful film and a beautiful script. Can you just change the male lead from male to female because people would accept it? That there's nothing stopping you from making a female lead to be promiscuous or have multiple, like the same thing we do for men. We can also do it for females. It's just that I think the fear or the worry is that they don't think society is ready to accept that. But if you look through history, most of the films that have made history or films that have left a longing effect are the films that were not accepted as normal. Those films that are just unique or films that make you go, I think that's really the most important thing for me is the mindset shift. There needs to be a major shift in the mindset of both the consumers, the movie houses, the studios. Everybody needs to try and get on board with the movement because it's happening. It just that it might take a bit longer, but the truth is that women are rising and they are very much up to the task.
Yeah, that's true. So like among all the films that you've made, the short films, yeah,
Mhm.
when you produce them, do you notice like, okay, the guys are reacting to it in a different way than the girls, or like the girls are like they appreciate it more than the guys who watch it? Like, do you notice that difference?
Yes, I do. I think generally women just tend to appreciate art more. And I'm not saying this because I'm a female, but I think maybe it's just that little sensitivity in us where we're not just looking at. In my phone. Let me see if she's sending. Don't start to. She has not accepted. Let me see. She sent a text message or something. Network just. Yeah. Were you still streaming? You are still streaming now. Okay, she has accepted. Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my
Yeah, can
route,
you hear
my
me?
internet got went off for a minute,
Okay.
but I'm back now. So let's just proceed.
Okay, yeah, so I was going to ask you the last question. I was like, is there anything else you'd like to add to what you've said so far?
Okay, yes. What I would like to say most importantly is to you. I want to sincerely thank you for taking on this topic for your project because it really does mean a lot. Little efforts like this makes us, especially we women in the filmmaking industry, feel like our we are being seen and we are being valued. So it's a great honor for me to be interviewed by you today, and it also fuels my drive to do more and to do better so that there are more females like you in the future that would need to hear our stories. And then in general, what I want to say to other female filmmakers in Nigeria, especially those in Nollywood, is hang on tight. It's will definitely get easier. We are making all the necessary steps and we just have to take it one day at a time until we get to the place where we are valued, respected, and the community is strong, capable, and we are also proud of all the women that are already doing a great job so far. And I want to encourage upcoming writers, filmmakers, directors, producers. I sincerely do wish you all the best. And I want to let you know that it might be hard, but it's a beautiful journey. The journey itself is the experience. Success is relative. So don't get discouraged and don't let anybody put you down or anybody tell you that you need to fit in a box. Nobody is allowed to make you feel small. Nobody is entitled to tell you how big your dream should be. So dream big, pray hard, stay strong, and continue on the course. So that's all I will say. Thank you. Hello. Oh gosh, the network.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I want to- I was so bad at you. That's the conductor. That's the last person I talked to. Like, she had a lot to say, but she didn't really, not that much, not as much as you said anyways, you understand? So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome. Thank you too. All the best with your projects and A's.
it.
All A's.
And
Hope to
yeah,
see
thank
you on the
you.
on the big screen
Thank you so
soon.
much. And also, yeah, if you know any other person or woman that might also be interested in this interview, I'm very open to recommendation.
All right, no problem. I'll keep an eye out because for now I really don't know, if I'm being honest. Most of the people that I know are males,
So,
but once I see somebody or something comes along my way, I'll definitely let you know. All right, I think I've lost you again. I wish you all the best. Take care. Have a good day. Love you. Bye. Because can't be like say MTN say don't do for this matter. Alright. Uh-uh. Yeah, can end. Bye.